I'm John DeSando.
Classics, let's go to the movies and share some popcorn, soda pop with our friends. Turn off our cell phones and get away. Night or day, it's John DeSando on the radio. We'll watch the credits from up high and low. Cinema Classics on air.
Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando. It airs Thursdays at 8:01 p.m. on WCBE 90.5 FM. Listen to shows and read reviews online at wcbe.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm G Kline.
and this is Cinema Classics. Well, you know, for sure, Ghostbusters, the Frozen, what is
Frozen
it?
Empire.
The Frozen Empire has its roots in the classic. Wouldn't you say Ghostbusters is a classic?
Well, if we take for granted that the first Ghostbusters is going to be the best Ghostbusters from here on, then what we really do is we compare the sequels to one another.
I know.
And how does Frozen Empire compare to Afterlife, our last Ghostbusters film, compared to Ghostbusters 2? And I believe this is, what, the 5th film now in the franchise?
Yeah, and that's why I have you here. Because
Because I was there for day one when Ghostbusters
No,
opened.
It's just that my mind blurs when I get past it,
Oh, yeah.
and all these attempts to reconstruct, redo, revivify, all that stuff it just blurs.
Yeah, some for better and a lot for worse.
Yeah, right. And I think Afterlife is probably the one the one that most people like after Ghostbusters the original.
Well, Ghostbusters 2 did not improve upon Ghostbusters 1, and you kind of scratch your head because Ghostbusters 1 was really nothing but a bunch of SNL alumni doing a 2-hour skit with Sigourney Weaver as the guest straight person. And it was wonderful, it was funny, and why you would break from that format, I can't imagine.
Or why you would think you could replicate that. How do you replicate Bill Murray's snark?
Well, you don't. You
don't.
You
You don't try it.
find new talent.
Yeah.
You turn to the SNL alumni. You bring in people like Tina Fey and Amy Poehler and Fred Armisen and these great comedians who are out there, and you have them take new parts. You don't keep worshiping the old franchise, and that has been the downfall of the Star Wars franchise, of the Indiana Jones franchise, and Ghostbusters as well, is just idolatry and this reverence for the original characters.
Yeah, and when you take the Frozen Empire, the current one that we're talking about, and you look at a big draw for me is Bill Murray. Aykroyd, so-so, but I'm ready to see Murray at any time, and I think he might even have been contractually to reduce his role because it's not much.
There's not much of Bill in the movie. Thank heavens we didn't get a CGI Harold Ramis.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that.
Yeah.
But I'm going to take a second to talk about the movie. The movie opens with a really nice 5-minute flashback to 1905, and we get a little bit of a history on the Ghostbusters fire station. But then immediately it bounces forward into this dramatic teenage angst drama of, oh my gosh, the kids aren't understood by the parents don't understand the kids. And if there's one thing you really don't want to do in a Ghostbusters movie, it's add drama.
Yeah,
This is not the kind of movie that you need to be going that direction.
They're engaged in battle with some goofy sewer dragon, I think, initially when they get back to the city.
Well, when they get back to the city, there's a really good chase scene. It's a lot of fun where they're chasing down this, looks like a Chinese dragon that's hopping out of the sewers. And of course, you get to see the car, and you get to see Phoebe, the 15-year-old daughter, in the side seat, and things get destroyed, and it's attempt to go back and remember the original film. However, once that ends, now it's all, oh, my parents don't understand me. The parents, played by Paul Rudd and Carrie Coon, have little more to do in this movie than just roll their eyes at their teenagers' drama.
You know, I really like Paul Rudd, but he doesn't impress me as Ant-Man, and he doesn't impress me here. And is it because they don't give him anything to do?
They don't give either of the parents anything to do. They really are very underwritten.
Whoa.
You just wonder, what are they doing here? They're so underserved by the script.
Yeah.
Now, in contrast, though, we do get a much nicer glimpse of Phoebe. And Phoebe's an interesting character. I like her character.
Phoebe saves the movie.
She's the 15-year-old daughter, and she unfortunately gets benched. She gets kicked out of the Ghostbusters because she's underage, and she goes off to a park and she starts playing chess with herself, and she meets Melody, a 16-year-old ghost with a very tragic history who's locked into a purgatory, and they develop a close friendship that basically turns into a relationship.
Jason Reitman and the director, right, dropped the ball on her.
Well, they certainly did. If there's one really failing of this movie is they lack the courage to pursue
exactly
this relationship.
Listen, if you want to update it, have a lesbian romance.
Have something that. But they get to the point where it's clear that there's a relationship, but they just don't take it to the next level.
Because the problem is, Ken, they have half the world's population in this movie. I mean, they're way too much. They have just. I don't understand why they don't ask us to comment on rushes or something. Yeah. We can tell them, look, you packed too much in there.
There's so many subplots. You've also got if everybody remembers Raj from Big Bang Theory, one of my favorite characters in Big Bang Theory. He is in this now as an ancient Ghostbuster called a fire. What is it? Fire Master.
Fire Master, right.
Yeah, he doesn't realize he's a Fire Master, but you've got his subplot. Now the good thing is Melody and Raj, from Big Bang, both are original faces, and it's welcome to see them in here and to have them bringing something fresh into the franchise.
But I think Raj is too silly.
Well, I like a little silliness in this. I'll take that over the teen angst anytime.
Yeah.
But the film really pursues a plot that is almost identical to the plot of Ghostbusters 2, which is all of the great work that the Ghostbusters have done saving people is now forgotten, and the city of New York wants to shut them down, and they're going to tear down the fire station, and they're going to scrap the Ecto-1.
And they bring back this guy, Atherton, the actor who's playing the mayor, is it, or something?
Yes, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and it's
talk about goofy.
I'm sorry, but we've seen this all before. Can't you do something better or more original than this? This is just dragging the movie down. There's a big baddie who is an ancient specter who has the ability to freeze things, who gets loose, but he gets loose so late in the film that he really doesn't get a chance to make much of an impact.
And the danger is icicles?
And the danger is that he's icing things up and freezing things. And I'll tell you, it's funny, they take this film about as far into Disney's Frozen territory as they can without violating copyright. Right down to the point when Phoebe's last gasp is a little burst of icy air that comes out a la Anna from Frozen.
Yeah. And so why? Well, I think once we get into our double take, I'd like to talk to some of the horror comedies. I think it's always good to kind of take the litmus test. You know, what are the great ones, and does it at all? And it doesn't even get near. I've got a list. And that doesn't get near to any one of them, of the great comedies.
It certainly doesn't get near to the original Ghostbusters, and there's so much more that you could do with this franchise. This is not a doomed franchise. This doesn't have to go down.
No, yeah.
You can bring out a whole bunch of great comedians and introduce them to this franchise and really revitalize it if you just treat it the exact same way that Dan Aykroyd and Ivan Reitman treated the original, which is, let's just make a big SNL skit. Everybody has a good time, and you ended up with the summer blockbuster of 1984, and it was probably the most packed summer for movies in history.
All right. Now, Ken, what does it tell us about New York City? I think it's a good move to go back there.
It's a good move to go back there,
right?
Yeah.
So what does it reveal to us if there's any thematic subtext here?
Well, to me, it reveals that Ghostbusters figured out what Godzilla already knew, that when you introduce a lot of battle and fantasy combat, do it in a big city where big buildings can get blown up and terrible things can happen to national landmarks.
And that reminds me, we'll probably be doing Godzilla versus Kong this weekend.
Oh my goodness!
Yes. We'll see.
Well, we'll see if it's as good as Godzilla -1, which was a very good movie.
I know that.
So my summation is, if you're a Ghostbusters fan, you don't need me to tell you to go. You're going to go anyway.
Yeah, you are.
It is. I wonder why this movie didn't get released during the summer. It definitely has the feel of a summer blockbuster movie. So it's kind of surprising to see it coming out in March. But you know, it is worth going to. It's better than Ghostbusters Afterlife. It's better than the one with the women, and it's probably, in my opinion, a little better than Ghostbusters 2 even. So of the list of all the Ghostbusters films, I would put this number 2.
Oh, good, all right. And for me, where I'm not so as heavily invested in it as you might be in some way, historically you always are in films. You get invested. So I'm standing outside and saying, okay, was I totally bored? No, I wasn't. I was really excited about Phoebe, not only because she looked like Harry Potter, but because she really was an outsider like me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And, you know, there's so much more they could have done with her and Melody, because she is clearly lonely, she feels isolated, she feels there's nobody else like her, and then she meets Melody, and suddenly there's this glimpse of, oh, there's another person who thinks like I do, there's another person who can raise me up to something better
Yes.
than what my life has been so far.
Another outsider.
Yeah, and they could have taken that and developed that a lot further, and that would have compensated for the missing elements much better than the garbage they threw in here.
And
I
I'll
wish
tell
they had
you,
pursued
yeah.
that relationship.
And I'll tell you, I thought that they had something going with Phoebe and Rudd's character, Dad.
They did make an effort.
You know, they made an effort.
It's about the only thing that Rudd had to do in the whole film.
Yes, right, and it's a good bit because it's a traditional bit. You have the teen, she's she's rebellious.
Yeah.
He's the new guy in town when their family.
He's the stepfather, and
Yeah.
to a bright young 15-year-old girl,
Yeah.
he's got to prove himself, and
Yeah.
she is a tough nut to crack.
And she's
Yeah.
delightful, and she's bright, and in her own way she can be laid back, although she's worried about this family so much.
I'm sure there's going to be a Ghostbusters 3rd film in this series. I'm sure that Phoebe will be developed even more, and I really hope that they bring back Melody to add to Phoebe's character, and that this ultimately goes.
Well, G Kline, yeah, that's part of our set. It amuses some of our.
The ghost did it.
Right, yeah, yeah. Well, G Kline, we're going to be talking more about horror films, and particularly comedic horror films, in our podcast, our highly ranked podcast.
Top 10 in the nation.
Top 10 in NPR for movie podcasts. So, so people can go see Double Take, again, listen to Double Take if they go to WCBE.org, the podcast experience. But, KG, your final words.
Final words is, this is a film worth seeing, but do not expect it to be an original Ghostbusters.
I'm John DeSando.
Cinema, 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 cinema. Classics, let's go to the